Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Journey Through Torah. We're going through the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers right now. We're starting to round out towards the last part of the book, and we're seeing some really good lessons for us to learn as we have through the entirety of this book as well. One of the things we've seen from the beginning here is that we need to be careful of our words. We need to be careful of the things that we say, the things that we do, how we're speaking about ourselves, how we're speaking to Yahweh, how we're speaking about one another, because this does have an impact. And even in the name of the book, Bamidbar, in the wilderness, can also be read as Bamedaber, which means in words or in the things that we say. So we have to be careful of the things that we say. And Balaam and Balak, this parsha Balak, but really we see a lot of emphasis on Balaam here in this Torah portion, is going to see he's going to learn that lesson. We have to be careful of the things that we say. He is hired to speak a curse against Israel. And Yahweh tells him, you will only speak what I tell you to speak. You will not be able to curse them because I have blessed them. But we know because of Balaam's heart, he was a prophet for profit, if you will. People hired him as they wanted to. Nowhere are we told that he is a prophet of Yahweh, but here we are. He is a prophet, someone who speaks things, sees things, and speaks blessing and cursing to people, and he seems to have an effect on people, so he gets hired a lot. Well, here a king wants to hire him, and he says, I'm going to pay you dearly if you come do this. Well, obviously. What's he going to do? He's going to say, oh, yeah, I want some of that. Give me some of that cash, right? So here he goes. He's going to be hired, and he's going to go off, and he's going to attempt to do what? And that's the key thing in here. He is hired to curse Israel, but he finds out he cannot because Yahweh will not allow it. And we know that it's not the words of Balak that he's words of Balaam when he's speaking, when he's prophesying. It's not really the issue because he can only speak what Yahweh tells him, but it's the teaching that comes afterwards that we really don't hear a lot about in this portion. We find out about it later on in the Torah. So these are the things that we're learning along the way. We've got to be careful of these things. So let's kind of back up a little bit and let's start with a few scriptures. All right. So let's start in Numbers 22. 1-6 says, Then the people of Israel set out and they camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan at Jericho. And Balak the son of Zippor saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was in great dread of the people because they were many. So Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Israel. And Moab says to the elders of Midian, This horde will now lick up all that is around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field. So Balak the son of Zippor, who was the king of Moab at the time, what did he do? Verse 5. He sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Petor, which is near the river in the land of the people of Ammon, to him, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land, for I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. So the first thing that we're noting here is that Balak is saying, here's this people, they've destroyed all the other people around us, and they're scared of what's going to happen to them. Instead of reaching out to Israel and saying, what are your intentions here? Are you coming here for battle? Are you coming here for war? Are you passing through? What's going on? They just automatically assume they're here to destroy us, right? So this is one of the things that we learn within Israel. It says when you are preparing to go to war, first try to make conditions of peace. Yahweh desires peace above all else, okay? So sometimes you can't have it. They had to go to war. But he says before you go to war, try to reach out to make terms of peace first and foremost. Well, the world obviously doesn't do things like that, do they? So they try to, let's attack them before they can attack us. Kind of sounds like Pharaoh, doesn't it? There's a Pharaoh that arose that did not know Yosef, and he says, come, let's take these people and let's enslave them before they decide they can turn on us and defeat us, right? This was not a thought, but again, let's defeat them before they can defeat us. It's the way of the world, and fear has a part to play in that too. But let's get on to a couple things on that. So he says, I want you to come and I want you to curse this people for me. Now, the interesting thing about this is, why didn't Balak come and say, I want you to come and bless my people? So that if we go to war, that we can stand in this battle and that we can be victorious here. No. He says, I want you to come and curse Israel. And that speaks volumes. That is something that we have to learn, is that we don't curse Israel. Okay. It's not enough that Israel can be blessed. We don't want them to be blessed, but we don't want, us to, no, it's not just that we can't be blessed. No, they can't be blessed either. Again, it shows the attitude of the world and how this all works. Okay. Why? I mean, possibly, could it be fear? Yeah, possibly. The idea of living peaceably was not an option. Hatred? Yeah, it could be hatred too. He was not looking to the needs of his own people, but hurting his enemy was more important to him than having his own people blessed. That says a lot, doesn't it? Again, we're seeing the way the world operates. And this is not the way that Yahweh has called us to operate. What does Yahweh say regarding us and regarding us as a people and how we're to live with one another? 1 John 2, 9 through 11. Whoever says he is in the light and hates his brother is still in darkness. Whoever loves his brother abides in the light, and in him there is no cause for stumbling. But whoever hates his brother is in the darkness and walks in the darkness and does not know where he is going, because darkness has blinded his eyes. Again, what we're seeing is if you're dwelling in the darkness, you're going to be in a tailspin. And so you're not going to have clear wisdom. You're not going to be able to properly discern the things around you because you're not going to see clearly, right? And some other things we learned too is that fear, hatred, all of these things can blind you to what's really happening. When we approach something with a bias of something, it's hard to see it differently. And so this hatred, fear, anger, all this being stirred up within them, it's going to cause them to approach a situation in a manner that's not good. They're kind of planning a preemptive strike here. Proverbs 4:19 says, "The way of the wicked is like deep darkness, and they do not know over what they stumble." James 1:19 and 20 says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be" what? "Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." We know this, right? That when we get angry, we're not concerned about righteousness. We're not concerned about justice, judgment, mercy, grace, none of this, because we're angry. And that anger causes all these other things to be pushed aside. This is why we've recently talked about within the past few parsha, anger can blind you to certain things and can cause your discernment to be off. So we need to make sure that anger does not rule you, that it does not control you. It is an emotion, and it's most often a secondary effect. Anger is brought on by something, by frustration or fear, doubt, discouragement, disappointment, whatever it is, but it's brought on by something. And so the emotion, it's human. But what you do with that, you can't let this rule over you, because ultimately it'll cause you to turn on people that Yahweh says is blessed. I'm going to use this in this aspect. It'll cause you to turn on your brothers, and it'll cause you to say things or do things or act out in certain ways against people that you should be blessing and not be speaking against. Okay. And so these are lessons for us to learn. Let's keep going. Numbers 22:13. So Balaam rose in the morning. He said to the princes of Balak, "Go to your own land, for Yahweh has refused to let me go with you." Now, a couple things to note here. Balak sent men to Balaam and says, "Come with me. Basically, I want to hire you to curse these people," right? This is what we saw. And here Balaam, which interesting, the name Balaam can also be read as Bilam, not of the people. So again, just testifying, he's not for the people of God. He's for himself, okay? He's not of God's people, but he's looking out for number one, right? Okay, so he comes to these guys, and he says, I've spoken to Yahweh, and he's not going to let me go with you. He's not going to say, "No, I can't go." Remember what Yahweh says. You cannot go with these people. You cannot curse them because I have blessed them. You can't do it. I mean, he flat out says, you can't do it. But he doesn't say that. He says, Yahweh will not let me go with you. So this implies, well, they have to send someone of greater honor, right? They have to spend more money. They have to, we're negotiating now, right? No, that's not the case. But let's keep going. Verse 14. So the princes of Moab rose and they went to Balak and said, "Balaam refuses to come with us. Once again, Balak sent princes more in number and more honorable than these, and they came to Balaam, and they said to him, Thus says Balak the son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me. Verse 17. For I will surely do you great honor, and whatever you say to me I will do. Come, curse this people for me. But Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, right? I could not go beyond the command of Yahweh my God to do less or more. So you too, please stay here tonight that I may know what more Yahweh will say to me. Really? Didn't he already say? And further, Yahweh my God? He did not profess faith in Yahweh. He did not profess faith in the God of Israel. If he did, otherwise he wouldn't be cursing them, right? So he's trying to play it up here. He's trying to say, yes, I'm in contact with all the gods and I can do whatever, right? And I talk to them. They're buddies of mine. We got an understanding and we can work it out. If I just kind of talk to him a little bit, he'll let me curse them. Don't worry about it. We'll work it out. Let me go see what I can do, right? It's not the case though, is it? Right? So here, he was not of the people. He acknowledged Yahweh as my Elohim, but refused to be considered a part of Israel. He wanted to have access to Yah, but he did not want to follow his ways or be in covenant with him. And nowhere does Elohim call Balaam his prophet. That tells us a lot, doesn't it? He wants to have access to Yahweh. He wants to be able to be blessed because of him, but he doesn't want to be in covenant with him or his people. It's kind of like, yeah, Yahweh, I'm with you, but your people? Nah, not so much. See, and it doesn't work that way, right? So we are in covenant with him. He made a covenant with his people, and we need to bless one another because Yahweh has blessed Israel. And that's something that he said, right? Let's keep going. Numbers 22:20. And God came to Balaam at night, and he said to him, If the men have come to call you, rise, go with them, but only do what I tell you. Now, did Yahweh change his mind here? No, not really, but we know this is insistent, right? So more on that in a second. Verse 21. So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey, and he went with the princes of Moab. But God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel of Yahweh took his stand in the way of as his adversary. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him. Now that's interesting, isn't it? So Yahweh says, okay, if they've come, fine, go with them. But then he got up to go, and Yahweh was angry. Wait a minute, you just said I could go. Why are you angry, right? Here's the thing. Yahweh knew his heart, and he was warning him. I'm going to make a point here, that you cannot curse Israel because I have blessed them. And Balak is going to know this, and the world is going to know this. So you go. But only say what I tell you to say. You will not say anything else. And so what is the intent of his heart? It's kind of like you're saying, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. No, he's like, okay, I'll go and I'll do this job, right? No, he can't. He cannot complete this mission because Yahweh said you cannot curse them, right? So why was he angry? He knows the intent of Balaam's heart. Balaam said nothing about doing what he had asked to do. So Yahweh was going to make a point here. And then the donkey spoke to show Balaam that Yahweh can make him speak, but he should be obedient to what he said. Interesting, isn't it? That the donkey could see the things in front of them. And we'll cover this in a minute, but when he kept turning aside and he kept running him into the wall, right? He says, if I had a sword, I'd kill you right now, as the angel of Yahweh is standing before him with his sword drawn. Interesting. See, it's kind of like his words are coming back to him, aren't they? Okay, so let's look at a couple of things. First off, sometimes Yahweh will allow you to have the desires of your heart, even if they're against him, but there are prices to pay for it. What? Sometimes we are so bent on what we want that we do not see or acknowledge anything else. We cannot hear the voice of Yahweh because we're so convinced within ourselves that what we want is what he wants. So sometimes he will let you get that out of your system. Hopefully, you'll come quickly to a place of repentance and come back to him because of that. Okay. But nonetheless, sometimes he will allow you to have what you want, and even to your own destruction, if that's how you're deemed fit to do it. Even if some people are going through, sometimes it's like, I need to hear a word from God, and they refuse to open their Bibles. But you're seeking other people to hear the word of God. Now, I fully acknowledge that Yahweh will use his people to speak to one another and to help each other and to encourage one another and to lift each other up and to speak into situations where we may need to actually hear something, right? But if we're never opening the scripture and we're not reading what he has to say to us and we're not discerning what others around us are saying, you're going to fall into destruction. You're going to not be able to discern what you're hearing, and so you're going to end up going down a path that's not going to be good for you. Okay? So, we see here as an example, 1 Kings 22:20 says, "And Yahweh said, who will entice Ahab, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said one thing, another said another. Then the Spirit came forward and stood before Yahweh, saying, I will entice him. And Yahweh said to him, by what means? And he said, I will go out, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, you are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. Now, therefore, behold, Yahweh has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these your prophets. Yahweh has declared disaster for you." He was saying, all these prophets, shall I go and go to war? Will I be victorious? And all of his prophets were saying, yes, you will go. You will be victorious. You can do it. All these people who are supposed to be his spiritual advisors were listening to a lying spirit, because that's what he wanted to do. And that's what he kept trying to gather to himself, things to affirm what he already wanted. Okay, we're not to be that way. We need to discern the voices of the people around us and make sure that they are speaking the voice of Yahweh, right? Jeremiah 23, a couple things in here. Verse 17 says, they say continually to those who despise the word of Yahweh, it shall be well with you. And everyone who stubbornly follows his own heart, they say, no disaster shall come upon you. Verse 26, how long shall there be lies in the heart of the prophets who prophesy lies, and who prophesy the deceit of their own heart, who think to make my people forget my name by their dreams that they tell one another, even as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. What he's saying is that the prophets are telling people things that they want to hear, that they like to hear, right? They're not telling them the things that Yahweh is saying. They're deceiving them. And what would be the reason for these people to deceive others? Well, money, wealth, power, fame, fortune, whatever. Whatever the reason is, it's irrelevant. Yahweh is saying that there are people in the midst of Israel who are doing this. And he says, don't listen to them, right? Deuteronomy 13 is a good place for that. Let's keep going. Titus 1:16. They profess that they know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient unto every good work reprobate. This is a good example of Balaam. He says he knows God, but by his actions, he proves otherwise. See, he says he knows Yahweh, but by his actions and even going to attempt to see if he can curse Israel, he's denying him. He's not doing that. And even later, teaching Balak how to get Israel to bring a curse on themselves, right? Because ultimately, spoiler alert if you haven't read it, right? He says, I can't curse them. God won't curse them. You can't curse them. How are we going to fix this? Get them to curse themselves. Get them to fall into rebellion and get them to fall into idolatry, adultery. And remember, they made covenant with Yahweh. They professed allegiance to Yahweh, and then here they turn to idols, right? Okay, so that's not what they're to do. So again, professing allegiance to Yahweh, but acting otherwise. Matthew 15:8 says, this people draws nigh to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, quoting from Isaiah 29. So Malachi 2:2 also says, if you won't listen, if you won't pay attention to honoring my name, says Adonai Tzavaot, then I will send the curse on you, and I will turn your blessings into curses. Yes, I will curse them because you pay no attention. See, it is Yahweh who blesses and curses, right? So he says, if you turn from him, even the blessings that he has given you, he will remove those, essentially, right? Because if we're walking in his ways, there is blessing. If we are not walking in his ways, it produces curse. All right, Numbers 22:24. So more of the donkey. The angel of Yahweh stood in a narrow path between the vineyards. We'll address that in a second, with a wall on either side. And when the donkey saw the angel of Yahweh, she pushed against the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. And the donkey did this 3 times, right? So what I want to address here is the narrow path between the vineyards. Again, we get the idea. I mean, there's a picture that's being shown here. The narrow path is the narrow path. Balaam is going to have to walk a narrow path. He's going to have to say only what Yahweh instructs him to say. Okay, and then between the vineyards and what does this represent? Let's look at this. Isaiah 5:7 says, "For the vineyard of Yahweh Zebaoth is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah are his pleasant planting." Jeremiah 12:10, "Many shepherds have destroyed my vineyard. They have trampled down my portion, and they have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness." So he's saying, and walk this narrow path. See this vineyard? You're about to go in, and you're about to speak a curse against my vineyard. And don't do it. Don't do it, because I will destroy you if you do. All right. So again, these are some things that we're learning, and some things that Balaam has to learn as well. We need to make sure that we are learning to speak life to one another, that we're learning to speak blessing to one another, that we're not falling in the trap of speaking evil about one another, gossip, slander. You may have heard Lashon Hara, the evil tongue, Rechalut's, tale-bearing, right? There's a lot in here that we need to heed warnings to. Okay, we need to be careful of how we are speaking about Yahweh and how we are speaking about one another. Numbers 22:25. So it's pressed against the wall. A rabbinical tradition identifies the wall with the pile of stones erected by Jacob and Laban, back in Genesis 31:51. Each promises never to cross that point with hostile intent toward the other. Balaam identified as a descendant of Laban the Aramean, and he is about to violate that accord. So he's saying, here he is, he's about to go in, and the idea, and if it's true or not, I don't know. But again, the idea behind some of these thoughts is to show us there's a point to it. That when something was set up, and here even their descendants had said, do not pass this point without, with evil intent, right? May God judge, right? So even here, he's being warned, do not pass this point with evil intent towards Israel, because you will be pressed, right? So there's three things I want to point out here in regards to blessing and cursing in relationship with Israel. Okay, so three things concerning this that we see in this parsha. One, only Yahweh determines blessing and curse. Only Yahweh determines blessing and curse. Okay, now there are many people who speak things into the earth, and some people involved in witchcraft and sorcery and divining and different things. Ultimately, Yahweh is the ultimate authority. It is He alone that can stand and that can bring judgment towards anyone else who's speaking any of these things. All right, it is Yahweh that determines blessing and curse. Numbers 23:8. How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce whom Yahweh has not denounced? He's saying that even if I were to try to speak a curse against Israel, it won't hit them. It won't land there. It won't take hold. Because if Yahweh has not cursed them, I can't. So in other words, there's a protection, there's a safety around them. Okay. Next, Yahweh's blessing cannot be revoked. Numbers 23:20 says, "Behold, I received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot revoke it." Yahweh has said you will bless them, and you cannot revoke it. You cannot do otherwise, because Yahweh has blessed. 3, those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. We see this in Numbers 24:8. God brings him out of Egypt, and it is for him like the horns of the wild ox. He shall eat up the nations, his adversaries, and shall break their bones in pieces and pierce them through with his arrows. He crouched, he lay down like a lion and like a lioness. Who will rouse him up? Now pay attention to this. Blessed are those who bless you, and cursed are those who curse you. This really sounds all the way back to Bereshit 12, right? Back to Avraham, when Yahweh says to Avram, "Go from your country, from your kindred, from your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and in him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." See that? Numbers 23:20 says, "Behold, I received the command to bless. He has blessed, I cannot revoke it. He has not beheld misfortune in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. Yahweh their God is with them, and the shout of a king is among them. God brings them out of Egypt, and is for them like the horns of the wild ox. For there is no enchantment against Jacob, no divination against Israel. And now it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, what has God wrought? Again, if Yahweh is saying there is bless, you cannot curse them. Because if we try to curse them, there is a curse coming back on us, right? Psalm 97:10. O you who love Yahweh, hate evil. He preserves the lives of his saints. He delivers them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright in heart. Rejoice in Yahweh, O you righteous, and give thanks to his holy name. Good stuff, right? Psalm 34:17 says, when the righteous cry for help, Yahweh hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. Yahweh is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but Yahweh delivers him out of them all. He keeps all his bones, and not one of them is broken. Awesome stuff, right? So Balaam goes and he tries to speak different cursings, right? We know that he cannot curse, so he has to bless. And he speaks towards 4 different times within Israel, 4 different periods that were given throughout Israel. And we see past, present, future in the midst of all these, okay? So I'm not going to go through these one by one, but I'm going to give you the references so that you can study them and look at them on your own, okay? So these 4 periods of time is first their time in the wilderness is found in Numbers 23, 7 through 10. In the conquest of the land, we see in Numbers 23, 18 to 24. The greatness of Israel after the conquest, that's in Numbers 24, 3 through 9. And in the end of days, that's Numbers 24, 17 to 24, and even in that, in regards to Mashiach being in their midst, okay? So I'm not going to go each of these blessings one by one, but I want to address this, and you're probably going to hear a lot about it in this week during this parsha. Matter of fact, if you attend a synagogue, you're going to hear it every Shabbat as you go in and you enter in. One of the first things done in the morning is Ma Tovu. Now, Ma Tovu is how lovely or how goodly, right? Tov is the word that we use for good. But what does it mean to be good? Tov means that it is there and it is functioning in the way that it was created to do. Therefore, it is good. It's not just like, oh, well, that's good. I like that. No, it is doing what it was created to do. Therefore, it is good. And that's something that it just kind of opens up the meaning, doesn't it? Right? So again, Ma Tovu, how lovely, how good, how precious, how beautiful, are your tents, Jacob, and your tabernacles, Israel. So again, we're talking about the tabernacle and we're talking about the tents. Their dwelling places, their homes, and the Mishkan in the midst of them. So we're talking about their homes being an extension of the tabernacle. Now, not literally, but yeah, their home was to be a place of safety, a place of refuge, a place to honor and worship Yahweh, a place where he resides with his people. Now, it didn't mean that they did not come to the Mishkan, right? That they didn't come and bring their offerings, the things, the korbanot, what we often call sacrifices, not getting into that today. But again, they're saying that when we come, when our homes is an extension of Yahweh's presence, it's beautiful, right? And what is that? Ma Tovu, there's different scriptures that are given for the Ma Tovu blessing, but it starts off with the words of Balaam, who was supposed to curse Israel. And he speaks a blessing to them, and a blessing that's even still here today. Let's take a look at this. Ma Tovu, it's Numbers 24:5, Psalm 5:8, Psalm 26:8, Psalm 95:6, and Psalm 69:14. We're going to look at it according to the Art Scroll Siddur, and I'm going to put the Hebrew up here for you. And it reads, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, va'ani barov hasdecha avov etecha, ishtahave el hekal kodshecha be'yiratecha. Adonai ahavte me'on betecha, umkom mishkan kevolecha. Va'ani eshtahave ve'ekra'a avarka lifnei Adonai osi. Va'ani tiflat lecha Adonai et ratzon. Elohim barov hasdecha aneni be'emet yeshecha. And it's if you do this, and if you can, even in the English, if you can do this, and it kind of changes perspective a little bit. If you can start your day off with this, or at the very least, start your Shabbat off with this, on the morning of Shabbat, right? As you're preparing and you're getting ready to meet with the people of Yahweh and getting ready to go and worship, be prepared before you get there. Before you're going to meet or wherever you're going, be prepared before you get there. Set your heart and set your mind on Yahweh. Let him go before you. Let his words go before you, and let it produce what he's called it to produce, right? So look, the English in this would be, how lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. As for me, through your abundant kindness, I enter your house. I will prostrate myself towards your holy sanctuary in awe of you. O Lord, I love the house where you dwell, and the place where your glory resides. I shall prostrate myself and bow. I shall kneel before the Lord my Maker. As for me, may my prayer to you, O Lord, be at an opportune time. O God, in your abundant kindness, answer me with the truth of your salvation. Guys, no matter what we're going through in life, no matter what's happening, we need our dwelling places to be centered on Yahweh and to be centered toward Yahweh. This is, yes, our homes, and within our homes, we need peace in our homes, but you're not going to have peace in your home if you don't have peace in you. If you are a dwelling place for Yahweh, if you are a tabernacle for him, if he resides and lives in you, then it will be an extension into your home. Matter of fact, wherever you go, you can have that peace, and you can just emanate his presence. You can emanate that peace all around you, and coming around others who may need to feel that, coming around others who may need to hear that word of encouragement, that word of life that they're not getting anywhere else. Maybe you could be a part of that, right? We need to have our dwelling places, whether our homes or whether ourselves, centered on Yahweh. Look at Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to Yahweh, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. Verse 5. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. 9. Because you have made Yahweh your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you, and no plague will come near your tent. Wow. And here's the thing. When we're looking towards Yahweh, when we're looking towards him and his presence, it's easy to bless one another. It's easy to love one another. It's easy to dwell with one another if our hearts are truly centered on him, because we're going to see what he desires for us, and we're going to want what he wants. And he wants his people to walk in blessing, in life, and peace, right? Titus 3:2 says, speak evil of no one, avoid quarreling, be gentle, and show perfect courtesy toward all people. Proverbs 11:25 and 26 says, whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. The people who curse him who holds back grain, but a blessing is on the head of him who sells it. So again, if you give, it will be given to you. If you bless, you will be blessed, right? Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and whoever waters will himself be watered. In other words, live your life showing the goodness of Yahweh to those around you. Live your life showing his blessing, not just for you, but for them. What he desires. Let his heart be living through you. See, keep our tabernacle, us, centered on him, and learn to live in that way. So we can truly say, Ma tovu, how good, how lovely, right? We're doing what Yahweh has asked us to do, and it is a blessing. And to those out there that are trying to speak cursing against the people of Yahweh, Yahweh will defend. Yahweh is the one who will see that is judged. We need to live the life of blessing. We need to live with him and under his shadow. in his safety and his protection. Let him live in you, and let that be the life that we have, because that is the only way that it's going to change this world that is lost, that is dying, and that doesn't know that it's Yahweh that they seek. They're looking to make their lives better, but they don't know that it's him. Let your life be an example of the goodness of God and how their life can be changed and be a blessing. All right, guys, that's all we have for this time. That's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that these teachings, I hope they challenge you, and I hope they encourage you. All right. So until next time, be blessed and shalom.